Hello and welcome back to part 2 in module number 3. And in this case, we are going to talk about designing graphic for the web. And I'm going to start this session talking about the style sheet and what does it entail, and I will be more specific. And then I will talk about HTML framework and why is it so helpful to have a framework in order for us to build a website. And then in the end, I'm going to talk about web graphics, and I will talk about the different types of images that we have, or image editor that we have, and what is Photoshop and why Photoshop is so well adapted to the web design. And we are going to talk about limitation and consideration when we are talking about design. So let's start with the style sheet. And as you can see, the style sheet give us the option, instead of playing with the HTML, give us more consistency with regard to how it's been designed. Example, we can set up the background as a line, and by doing that we can play with the font and be able to set different colors to the text, something that is really hard to do with HTML by itself. So this is a giving additional support to the idea of style sheet as a component. We can use also more than one style sheet in a HTML page, and by doing that you can play around with that and see how it will affect the idea of it. So you can play with it. If you have Mozilla, that's probably the best way to do that and see the effect. One of the things that we have to remember, that HTML, even though it's been established for a long time, that the ability to display unique graphic elements such as unique text and unique characters is sometimes often lack of. And so the style sheet compensate that and provide us the ability to add more dimension to our work and what we are trying to do in this case, not only to the text itself, but it gives us the idea of spacing the text, and something that in HTML can be done, but it depends on the browser that you are using, and it's sometimes a little bit more difficult than you think. So style sheet address this issue and provide you a solution with that. So the style sheet provides us with proper names, declaration, and the idea of blocking space in order for us to do that. So this is the style rule or statement that allowed us to do that. We can have multiple elements type, we can have all elements type, and we can provide ID to example to specific items in every single page in our website. If our website is big, that helps a lot to the designer, but also to the HTML coder, which in both cases is you, to help you to have the same design element throughout your website. So the syntax, again, with an ID that I created called P3, and it contains what it is and how it will display. So let's look at, I highlight the idea of a hyperlink. In a hyperlink, we can have a link color, different colors, or different colors when a visitor has already visit the web page and already click on the link. So we can change it to a different colors. We can have different colors when the mouse is over the link, or the active when it is. So we basically have 4 motions in play that we can apply when we are designing a link into our page. Another issue is the idea of spacing on it. So again, we have UL, which is letter spacing 1 space, which is the rule of LI in HTML, and it give us the ability to apply to it. OL is the ability, the idea of the replies to and ability to display that. And li is the rules that apply to the li element that is a little bit more condensed. So I want you to experience that. I want you to feel how it feels. And again, this is the issue of beauty. I'm not going to go over every single element. I want you to experience, try to play with it, see what it entails, because if I will entail every single element in this design, I probably will end up the entire semester in the summer semester, fall semester, spring semester, and I probably will not finish. So that's why I'm a little bit short and I'm not going to cover every single element. I expect you to do it yourself, just to the experience of it. So the issue of link to the style sheet and how to apply that. In this case, I'm using the style sheet, and I'm declaring the H1 and H2 with the background color in order for us to do that. So the front is mapping from the code points of the color style and the sheet style and how to apply that. This is quite beautiful. And if you can do that with a style sheet instead of you creating it in image and carry it throughout this throughout the website, this is quite powerful. So again, this is how it began. So I gave you a lot of reference in module number 2, and I repeated that again in the this module about the style sheet. It's quite easy. You need to have some imagination, and if you are using Adobe Dreamweaver, it comes with its own style sheet, so you can design it, or you can download the style sheet and play with that and see how it affects you. So you have a lot of options to play with. Next, frame. What is a frame? The idea of a frame is the idea that we can wait, I thought I did frame and what it is. Okay, so this is a frame that calls a header and a home page content. All blogs has a frame. All blogs has a frame. The template that you are using has a frame. And by using the frame, they are applying those techniques in order for us to do that. How do you set yourself a frame? You declare it with HTML. So the frame, you're going to have the navigation, for example, the top, and the introduction. And by doing that, you need to create a supporting page that will support into it, because the frame consists of different HTML files into one frame that display it. So in this case, the frame consists of navigation and introduction, and there are two different HTML files, and that's where things are being displayed. There is the name, there is the source, there is a scrolling if you want the user, if you are setting up 2 pages or 3 pages of HTML and you do not want the user to scroll in those pages, you can say, I don't want you to scroll, and say no, or if yes, you can say yes. When you are looking at your blog, the code for the frame is usually say no, you cannot, or no to the navigation and yes to the content. This is how usually apply that. And you can also have a frame border in order for us to see that. Some people like it, some people don't. Again, depends on how it apply. And navigation, in this case, this is the navigation, and this is how the introduction, and by applying it, this is what it will do. I want to stop for a second and show you that in my where is it? I created, sorry. I created the web page for my from the framework, and I use framework. There was a framework in the template that I use, and see if you can find this framework. I cannot find, I don't know why I cannot find my homepage that I'm still working on for module number 3, but this is something that I want you to pay attention. Framework is part of how we conduct things and what is it entail. An example of the design of a framework, this is example. Each one of them display a different framework that consists of different layout and different pages in order for you to do that. And again, this is the beauty, looking inside to see that. I'm moving now to the web design. I know I cannot cover, I told you I cannot cover everything. I will try to do it concisely, and I will give you more reference throughout the semester in this module about that, about frame set and how to do that, and I will also to give you more directions. Third, web design. So we will start with technology. What are we seeing? Usually images start with two types in the web. We have two types, pixel and vector. And what is the difference between them? And we also have the issue of resolution, which is the resolution is the total number of pixels in the image. And we also have the convention of the vector to pixels that might cause a problem depending on what type of visual editor you are using and how you compress it in order for you to display it in a more accurate way. And there are so many format to display images on the web. Which one is best, which one is worse, and why is that? And if you are using high quality, you probably are losing quality, and this is something that the web does not have us provide, even though it's been improved. But this is something that you need to be aware of, losing the quality of the image compared to what you have been working with your image editor. So what are images? They can be photograph or scan or downloads. They can be pictures, drawn or painted. They can be movies such as videos or animation. And in the past, we used to look at images vector versus pixels. And I'll try to make sense to you with that example, because this is how the foundation of the idea became. So pixel is based on a grid, plotting, and it's storage intensive. Vector is a little bit looser and plotting on the intensive and the ability what is it entail. So the idea here is that we are trying to make it a high quality the best we can. This is why PowerPoint looks good to any monitors. We are trying to match it to the user in order for us to apply it, and we are using, in this case, we're using vector as the default. So you can still start at the glory history, and if in the history we try to come up from text to a little bit more color, and what we came up with. So we have bitmaps and vector, and bitmap is the idea of usually applied to the photograph, computer printing, and videos, specific number of dots, which is really important across and down. And the idea is dots spread out as a sequence together as an image size changes, and the number of dots remain the same. So the tools that we often use when we are using bitmap is Adobe Photoshop. So map of the dots, in this case, this is what, when we look inside, this is what we will see. If you look closely, and I be able to you'll be able to zoom in with the PowerPoint, you'll see lines basically that represent the dots inside. So in this case, this is what it is. or in this case a little bit further. So another example is the idea of bitmaps and making bitmaps bigger. And again, this is 100%, this is 200%, and this is 500% bigger if we want to scale it a little bit hard. And this is a warning for you, because printer usually has 300 dpi or 600 dpi, and monitor has 72 dpi to internet pictures. And if you download from the internet or print it, it will make sure it's big. Vector, in the other hand, is the idea of drawing an animation. It is based on points, lines, fill, and shape, and the instructions to the computer, and the quality remains the same as the image size changes. Usually, the tool that is often used to apply to build the vector is Adobe Illustrator. So basically, we have lines or points, and we usually fill it out with that type of position and ability to apply that. Example, and this is example that you see, you scale the image a little bit to what type and how it scale back. And let's look, if we are looking at zoom in and zoom out. This is 100%, this is 200%, and this is 500%. As you can see, I probably would not need to say to you, the vector is a little bit high quality compared to what we saw before. So basically, the vector is the preferred high quality, but not all website needs to have vector. It's a little bit more time consuming to work with. So bitmap, photographs, dots, Adobe Illustrate, vector, drawing, points, Adobe Illustrate. So what is Photoshop? I've been talking about Photoshop, and I need to point out again, this is the link to the information technology. And in the information technology department at USF, you will have the option of delivery, download, or special request. I don't think that you have the ability to download, so I recommend you to have a special request. You will say that you are taking this class, and I gave the authority to all the students in the class to download Adobe Cloud, which means that you're going to have a lot of software application that you can apply. You don't need to install all of them. I recommend to start with Photoshop, that will help you with web and technology in this class. I'm not going to go over Illustrator. There's classes dedicated for Adobe Illustrator. I'm not going to teach it. I'm going to talk about the practice aspect of the Photoshop. So the idea here is creating high quality images, then ability to export it to the web. And the idea here is, again, this is the menu. This is in the interface. This is old interface, but if you're looking at the new interface in 2000, they changed the version of the Photoshop quite often. You will see the idea that it gives you many options with regard to the style and the options in order for you to create that. Hold on. And again, you can create an app, or you can download or apply. This is something that I took from the web. No, it's not existing anymore. Sorry. Create new, and you can create. And again, the resolution is really important. 72 is the default resolution if you want to work in higher resolution, I highly recommend to you to do that. You can customize the image, and you can apply to it and devote it to it. And when you created such an image, let's pick this out. You have the tools to do that. Example for text. It doesn't show because it's white. And I'm going to take it a little bit higher. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to move it a little bit. And one of the things that it's really nice to do is that you can have a lot of effect. You can scale it. Something that you cannot do in HTML, the scale of it, or to apply to it. And again, I gave you great resource on the subject, but I want to go back to the idea of the image size. And in this case, image size. So image size will give you the ability to see what size of the image you are working and what resolution you are in, and you can play around with it and see how it affects everything that you do. And by doing that, you can see the scaling of the image, the size of the image itself, and the plot of the image. And you can also see the group tool that be able to click and drag the tool and be able to scale it back, and the RGM, which is the idea of the color, what type of color scale you're going to have in order for you to apply to it. The layers, you can add layers in order for you to build something else, and the moving images and blending all together to blend it together so it will be able to produce what it is. And the idea of export it. I will focus on the export aspect because this is where everything is important for me. So the idea of export is the save as or export as web. So you're going to save it as web. It's going to show you what it is. It's going to show you the scale of it. And you're going to say high quality, and you will see that they're gonna give you GIF, the format of a GIF, JPEG, and PNG. I recommend you to use the GMP as the high quality in order for you to apply to it, and you're going to save it and give it a good name so you'll be able to apply. So this is, again, the idea of the art and the idea of the use, and there's a lot of materials that can be applied and can be specialized. Again, one of the things that nowadays is more important is the graphic limitation. And one of the things that we often hear, and because of the virus, people complain of connection is slow. And so you as a designer of your website need to understand that and say, okay, what can I do in order for the website not to be heavily graphics that is usually a high image size that is really hard to get for someone who has no fast internet connection. So I want you to be aware of it. I don't want you to limit yourself, but I want you to be aware of it. And always consider user confirmation and how they see it. Test it on your mom, test it on your father, test it on your boyfriend or girlfriend, test it even on me. Send it to say, okay, I want to test to see if it makes it. Do not just upload everything and see if it is, and get notes and get notes for me. just test it. Try to see what is it entail. Maybe it will give you more consideration. So screen size, it's really important. I use different screen size than you are, and that might affect the visual, the colors. I didn't talk about graphic type colors. It probably is another session that I will do next module, part of the PHP. I will talk about colors, what colors can bring into the design aspect, and what is a safe colors, and what is it entail with regard to technology. We are talking about this, the scale of the colors. We have 256 versus 216, and again 256 is the large scale, but the safer, the more condensed, a little bit more condensed with the number of colors, it's 216. So this is an issue that needs to be applied. Using a color picker, this is something that is often used, and the idea of how to apply to it and how to do that. The file formats of the web. JPEG, as I said before, is usually great for photographic pictures. GIF is the lowest resolution, and it's usually the interchange format. And PNG is a little bit higher resolution. It's usually very good for people who are using the PC, not the people who are using the Mac. So this is a part of the Mac versus PC comes into play. So JPEG is the best for photographs, high resolution, use 16 million colors, and ability to work with RGB mode, and it's usually ability to have different format. We can have it as a standard format, optimized and progressive, and that's giving us more options with regard to the quality. GIF is the best solid colors, which means for logos is best, for bottoms for when the navigation bar it is used. It's the idea is that it's used 256 colors, but browser use only 216. Work with index mode, and it's good for compression, and it's really light with the size of the image itself, which is really important. JPEG again is also good for logos, and ability is better comparison to the GIF. And if you have an old browser, it usually does not support it, especially to people with a Mac. It doesn't support that, so you have to be careful. But nowadays it's becoming a standard too. PNG 24 bits is a little bit better, and the idea of what you see, and again, good, better, and the best. This is how I see the world. But look at the size of the images, and the size of the JPEG is a little bit bigger than the size of the PNG or the GIF. Back to what we started today. We talked about the style sheet. We talked about frame. So effective web page layout, usually it's the idea of a common layout format and visual consistency, white space, visual balance, and the speed and scrolling, and the speed resolution. Usually when we are talking about color and web design, we're talking about cultural understanding or cultural perspective. And as you know, I am not American. I was born here, but I was not raised here. So I have different understanding of cultural colors. I like different colors than most Americans, and so this is how my design affect. I want you to bring your culture into it and make it your own work. So it's really important that you display that. So the color formats in HTML is a little bit limited. Use the style sheet in order for you to extend it, and add addictive color display so it will make more consistent and be consistent on your display. So the color and web design, the color in yellow, red, blue, and green, and all to come together. This is considered to be the safe colors, and the color combination or the color transmission allowed us to do that. Also think about fonts. What fonts are you going to use on your website? What is the limitations? What is topography? What does it consist of? Serif fonts versus scan font versus Time Roman font. All of that represent something. Play with it. Try to come up with your own design, your own things that you came up and say, okay, the font that I use is serif font because it matches to the design, and it allowed us to do that, allowed us to display what I want to display. So again, the issue of font is really important, and always determine the ways that the design helps and enhance the user experience. Identify the audience and end users. Identify the website characteristics and strategy to enhance this idea of engagement. Engagement meaning they will not flip to another web page, they will look at your work and try to understand what it is. Eliminate unnecessary element. This is the hardest part. You always think that if you add another element, it will help your website best, but it doesn't do so. So you need to be, again, I highly recommend that you will call other people to give you their point of view, listen to what they have to say in order for you to make the best solution, best presentation to your website with regard to the design. In the past, we consist of two types. Nowadays, we have more options. And one of the options that we are often talk about is how do we display website on your phone. This is the issue by itself, and we have limited size of the image, limited use of the text because the phone cannot display image of let's say a large image, and he needs to compress it. So you are losing the quality of the image in the phone. So how do you overcome it? What do you do? We will talk about that, but this is something that you need to be considered to your website, because in the end you will learn how to scale your website to your phone. So this is something that you need to incorporate in your design, and how to implement that in that overall performance of the website. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I will talk more about that throughout the semester, but this was a warm-up that we will do and try to I will try to go over and teach you how to apply to it. I hope you enjoy that. Please give me any feedback that I will be able to address. Again, see you next week. Bye.